One, two, testing, one, two. Check, check. One, two, testing. Am I on? One, two. Alright, that's great. Father God, we want to come before you, and God, again, we want to thank you, Lord, for who you are. God, we want to thank you, Lord, for the way, Father God, that you're working and moving, God, in our lives. God, we want to thank you, Lord. We want to honor you, God. And Lord, really, God, for the past 3 days over our retreat, God, we want to thank you, Lord, for just challenging us and speaking to us. God, the things that we learn, help us, Father God, to really, God, apply it to our life. And Lord, at this time, as we continue on, God, listening to your word, we pray, Father God, that you help us, Father God, to come through us. We thank you, we love you. As we pray, amen. We're continuing on with the book of Galatians. And if you remember, the book of Galatians is about the grace of God. And just to help you recall your memory regarding this book, Paul, throughout this letter, is combating people that are false teachers. This false teacher, at the time, they're known as a Judaizer. And their main thing was this, that it was not the grace of God alone, but it was also the grace of God, plus you do other things. So Paul is saying, no, that's not true. The way you become a Christian is through the grace of God. Through you accepting that Christ did everything for you upon the cross. But if you recall, this false teachers thought differently. And they said this, it's not only Jesus Christ, but you need to add stuff on top of it, right? You need to follow the Old Testament laws. And namely, they said this, in order for you to become a Christian, you gotta be circumcised. And the reason why I said that Judaizer, the false teachers at the time, did not believe in the grace of God is kind of like this. If you think about it, the gift of God, right? It is a free gift. The eternal life that we have, it is a free gift of God. That's what grace is. Imagine with me now. Pretend with me that you go home today, and for some reason, your next door neighbor, he comes up to you, goes, you know what? Here's a brand new car key. And you go outside and you discover that this car key is a brand new car, the $20,000 Lamborghini. Right? You can go shoot here. You can have it. Do whatever you wanted, right? I'm not gonna have you pay for it, it's free. But what if he told you, on top of this, what if he told you this? But it's free, but this is what you gotta do. From now on to the rest of your life, you gotta take me to work every single day until you die. Not only that, every single day of your life, right? At least 5 times a week, you gotta come over to my house, you gotta cut the grass, right? If he really told you this and he gave you this car, would that car really be free? Of course not. Why? Because there's a string attached. And this is different from you, just being happy that he gave you a car and you just be grateful and, doing things for him, right? But if he said, here's the gift, but in order for you to receive this gift, you gotta do something, right? You gotta pay me back, right? If you think about it, this was the idea that the false teacher at the time had. It was not a free gift from God. Why? Because it's not only Jesus Christ, but on top of it, in order for them to keep the salvation, they said, what do? You keep the Old Testament law, and namely, you had to be sacrificed. So their idea of grace was polluted. So now Paul goes on and he tells the Christians, right, that we do not need to follow this law, right? That we do not need to be legalistic. It is no longer work, or as I sound of work, right? It's no longer that, but it's free. The gospel message that we have, it is free in Christ. And Paul goes on to say this, there's liberty in Jesus Christ. But now think about this. Even though we have freedom in Jesus Christ, right? But there's also responsibility that follows with the freedom that we have. And that's not only in terms of church, but this is also true in life. Think about it. When you first got your driver's license, when you first got your car, right? You had the liberty. You had the freedom to drive anywhere. But even though you had the freedom to drive anywhere, did that mean that you could do anything and anything that you want? Of course not. Even though you had the liberty to drive, that meant that you had to obey some things. That you had to follow, you had to have some kind of responsibility. That when you drive, that you have to keep the speed limit. That when you drive, right, you got to obey the traffic law. When you drive, you have to put on your seatbelt. When you drive, you better pay for your insurance. You better pay for your gas, right? Likewise, with the freedom that we have in Jesus Christ, it does not mean you do anything and anything that you want. But instead, we need to know that with the freedom that we have, we also have responsibilities as a child of God. So as Christians, there are responsibilities that we are to follow. And in today's passage in Galatians chapter 6, verses 1 through 10, Paul talks about 3 responsibilities that come with Christian living. Right? He tells us there are 3 things that we need to follow. There are 3 responsibilities that we have as people that have been set free by the grace of God. So what are the 3 responsibilities that we have as children of God? The first thing that Paul talks about is this. The first responsibility that we have is this. That 1, we are to restore sinners. The first responsibility that we have as Christians is that 1, we are to restore sinners. Please show me to Galatians chapter 6, verse 1. Galatians chapter 6, verse 1. And again, I gotta say for the one last time, make sure you bring your Bible. There's no reason, absolutely no reason that you don't bring your Bible. We have free Bibles, and all of you guys, I gave you free Bibles. So make sure you bring it, okay? So open it up. If you have it, open it up. Galatians chapter 6. Let's go open up the Bibles. Galatians chapter 6, verse 1. Alright, let's read it all together on 3. You guys ready? 1, 2, 3.
Brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in the spirit of gentleness. Watch on yourself, lest you too be tempted.
Amen. The first thing that Paul talks about regarding Christian responsibility is this, that we are to restore sinners. And when Paul is talking about restoring sinners, right, here's something I want you to understand. He's not talking about people that are not Christians, but here in this context, Paul is talking about Christians that have fallen away from faith. So Paul is talking about people that are Christians that have already accepted Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, but so for some reason they have lived in sin and they have gone astray. So Paul is saying one of the responsibilities of Christians is this, that we are to restore those people. He's talking about people that are Christians that have fallen away and are living in sin. So what kind of Christian sinners is Paul talking about? Is it for people that only commit certain kind of sin, like you don't restore people that commit like murders or like adultery? What kind of sin is Paul talking about? The clue is given in the verse that we just read, right? Paul says this, if anyone is caught in any transgression, he's saying anyone, but it doesn't matter if you're old, if you're young, if you're a guy, if you're gold, if you're girl, right? If you're caught in sin, right? What kind of sin? Any. The word is any sin. Paul is saying this applies for anyone that commit any kind of sin. There is no exception, right? So Paul is saying our target as Christians in terms of restoring people, right, is for everyone and anyone. And he goes on to say this, and who should be the one restoring people? Here's something I want you to think about. Who should be the one that's going out to restore the people? He says this, if you are a believer, and if you believe that you are the more mature believer in Christ, that in terms of spirituality, you're a little bit more mature than the other person, then the burden is on you. You are the one that should be going out to restore other people. And what kind of person is more, more mature? If you remember from the passage that we read a few weeks ago, Galatians chapter 5, verse 20 to 23, it talks about a Christian that is filled with the fruit of the Spirit, right? So the responsibility of the spiritual believer is to go out and to restore a believer that is living in sin. And when you do this, how should you approach this person? Should you go up to this person and say, how dare you? You know what? You call yourself a Christian and you're living like this? You need to repent. How can you call yourself a Christian and cheat on your exam? How can you call yourself a Christian and steal? How can you call yourself a Christian and sneak around? Is that the tone of voice? Is that the method that you should need to go towards as you approach this person and as you're trying to restore this person? Of course not. Paul goes on to say this. When you go and restore a believer that's living in sin, how should you do it? He says this. In verse 1, he talks about that we need to go with the spirit of gentleness. Right? Spirit of gentleness. That we need patience, that we need to be gentle with the person. And as we do this, we need to definitely come before God with a heart of prayer, and we need to seek God in guidance. So how do we restore a person that is living in sin? Here's a couple of things that we need to do. First of all, when we help the person, when we help the person restore, right, get the person back into faith, one of the things that we need to realize is this. First of all, we need to help the person recognize that he or she is living in sin. Think about it. When you restore a person, you need to help the person realize that he or she is living in sin. Why? Because let's say I'm doing something and I don't realize that what I'm doing is actually sin. How am I going to turn back to God? So you gently go up to him and, through the Bible, or, gently you come up to him and say, you know what, the things that you're doing is actually against the will of God. And you show this person that the way that they're living, right, the conducts, the actions that are coming out from them is actually against the will of God. It is actually sinning. Right? Because if they don't realize that they're doing something wrong, then they cannot stop it. So first, you help them recognize, you help them realize that the person is living in sin. Second is this: once the person realizes that he or she is living in sin, what do? You encourage the person to confess, right, before God, and for that person to turn around in repentance. And after repenting, that you help this person to seek before God and to slowly walk with God, right? So you help the person realize that this person is living in sin, and afterwards you help the person confess before God and to turn away from sin and to point this person towards living in righteousness. And how do you do it? Again, as you approach this person, you do so with gentleness. And I can personally tell you, when you do this, it's actually not easy at times. Many times it's kind of sticky, it's kind of like, very uncomfortable. Let me share a couple stories. Many years ago, I actually had to confront a very close friend of mine that was actually married at the time. But he was actually he was actually committing adultery. So I was very close with the guy, and even with his wife, I was very close. And I actually had to go to my friend, I had to sit him down, and I had to tell him, hey, what you're doing is actually against the will of God. What you're doing is actually you're committing adultery against your wife. And why do I do this? Because number one, I care deeply, not only for the guy, but also for his wife, right? So I wanted him to know that what he was doing was actually sin. And another reason why I approached him is because, again, he was my friend. I wanted him to be restored back into faith, and not only back into faith, but also back into relationship with his wife. And I remember another story. This happened about 10 years ago, give or take maybe 9 or 10 years ago. And I had a student at the time who was in the habit of stealing clothes from a mall. So he would always go to Nike and then the center and he would grab one gear, then another gear, then another gear. And one time he finally got caught, and when they caught him, they called his home, and his parents weren't home. So one of his sisters picked up, and she found out that the guy was stealing, right? So she called me and she goes, Pastor Jacob, you know what, you need to pray for my brother. I was like, oh, what's going on? And she said this, my brother, he just got caught, he's been stealing at the mall for months and months, right? And can you please not tell him that it was me that called, he somehow get it out of it, and have it, I confess, and I talked to him. So I was like, okay, I'll talk to him. So the following week, when I saw this guy come to church, I went up to him and I did my thing. I'm really good at poker face. I went up to him and I was like, hey, you know what? I've been praying for you lately. And as I've been praying for you, God's been revealing something heavy in my heart. Right? I realized, you've been sinning, right? And he had this look like, oh my gosh, I'm shocked. How do you know this, Pastor Jacob? Right? And not only that, he had this look of fear in his face, oh my gosh, what did God tell you? And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna go into detail, but I think you need to share with me. Right? I think you need to repent. And he was like, Jacob, you know what, actually, this past week I got caught. I was stealing for a really, really long time. And no one knows, my mom doesn't even know, I think only my sister knows. I was like, oh really? Yeah, God's revealing it to me. Right? He's talking, and he confessed. And what I did in that situation was that I actually had him, you know what? Right, I was like, okay, this is what you did, and I'm glad you realized that what you did is actually sin. Now I want you to actually confess to God. And I want you to actually confess before God. And you know what? I want you to be restored back into faith. I want you to realize that what you did is wrong. And I want you to confess before God. And again, the first thing that Paul talks about is this. As Christians, our responsibility is that we are to go out and we start to restore sinners. Right? If you know anyone that are around you and you know that this person is a Christian or claims to be a Christian, or a long time ago he used to go to church and he's no longer going to church, right? Then the burden is on you. Why? Because you're the more mature believer. Right? Paul is saying if that is the case, you are to go out and gently, in a loving way, you are to bring this person back into faith. Paul talks about a second responsibility that we have as Christians. As Christians that have liberty, a second responsibility is this, that we are now to bear the burdens. It is the responsibility of bearing burdens for other people. We're going to read from verse 2 all the way to verse 6. Let's read it together on 3. You guys ready? 1, 2, 3. Again, the second thing that Paul talks about regarding Christian responsibility is that we are to bear burdens. So what does it really mean to bear the burdens of another Christian? Right? What does it mean to bear a burden? Right? To bear a burden of someone else means that you're actually helping the person. How do you help this person? Maybe you're walking alongside of it. But more than that, it actually has a picture image of this. If someone has a burden, right? Something is heavy on them. Let's say you're hiking and your friend has a backpack on. There's like maybe like 100 pounds of weight in his backpack. And your weight in your backpack is only 5 pounds. What do? As a friend, you say, hey, I'm going to help you. Let me carry some of your load and I will help you. So you take some of his weight and you put it upon yourself, right? So that for this person, it will become lighter. This is the idea that Paul is talking about, right? Our responsibility as Christians is not only restoring someone that has been living in sin by saying, you know what you're doing is living in sin. You gently allow him to come back to faith. But not only that, but there's a next step. A next step after you restore someone that's been living in sin is that you bear this person's burden. You don't let this person walk in faith alone, but you now help this person get back on their feet. Again, to bear one another's burden, it has the idea of carrying someone's heavy load, right? Why? Because for the person, it's very difficult to carry on their own. And I think a lot of times we have this wrong idea in terms of carrying someone's burden. Whenever we think about the church and carrying someone else's burden, this is what we do. Oh, that's not my responsibility. You know what? Yeah, I'm a Christian, I go to church, but why should I be the one to go out and reach out to that person? We have pastors at church, we have leaders at church, right? This is the idea that we have. But what Paul is saying is no, this is a burden, right? This is actually a responsibility that falls upon all Christians. Paul is not only writing to one Christian here, but he's actually writing to all Christians, right? This is a letter that he's writing to Christians. And Paul is saying this responsibility is given to every single Christian. And as we help carry one another's burden, what do we become like? We become more and more like Jesus Christ, right? We have a calling to become more and more like Christ. And as we help carry the burdens of other believers, we then become more and more like Christ. So how are you carrying the burdens of other people that are around you, right? How are you actually helping in terms of carrying the burdens of other people? Let me give you a couple examples. Yesterday morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. At a retreat site. And after I woke up, I did some Bible reading. And after I did some Bible reading, I went outside the kitchen. And I realized I was actually very surprised. When I went to the kitchen, I was thinking, man, it's going to be so messy because everyone's going to be eating ramen, last day, they're going to be staying up. So I walked in, but I was actually pleasantly surprised because it was actually a lot cleaner than I thought, right? So I go in and then I pick up the trash. But at the end, when I put all the trash, the eggs, the leftover spaghetti, like meat, like the ramen, bongji, the box, right? There were five big piles of, trash bags. And as you know, you can't just leave the trash there, you actually have to drive. So I drove about a mile and a half, I threw the trash away, I came back and I did some more cleaning. Afterwards, I put all the rice box into my car, cut the place, clean everything up, put it into my car. And by this time, I'm actually pretty tired, right? And I was pretty tired, I'm cleaning. And then at that moment, my brother Michael, he actually walks out, right? And this is what he said, Jacob, can I help? Wait, what can I do for you? So I was like, Michael, thank you very much. I was like, here's what you could do. You could actually do the dishes. And I asked him, like, do you actually do dishes? I don't like, oh yeah, a lot of times. Like, okay, right? So Michael, he actually did the segregation for me. And that was one way that he took off my burden, right? I was pretty tired. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta do all this thing. And then Michael came along, like, okay, Jacob, I'll do the dishes. And the second thing that came to my mind as I was preparing this message yesterday was this. Yesterday at lunchtime, we're eating, after a retreat, we went to that barbecue place, and then we're eating. So I was in line, I had one group at a time come, order, and then at the end, it was me, Andrew, and Anthony. I placed my order, and then after I was done ordering, I went to where you guys were sitting. And I don't know if you guys realize, but you guys were all within inside this canopy, right? Outside was really, really hot, and then the inside you guys was most of you guys were all sitting on the shaded area, except for a couple of you guys, maybe your back were in the sun. And I looked around, there's no sitting for me, right? And I'm like, whatever. So I sat across, on the bench, where the sun was coming towards me, I was sitting down. And at that moment, my brother Kenneth, he looks at me, he's like, oh, Jacob, come take my seat. He's like, really? He's like, yeah. So Kenneth, he gets up, right? He taught me to sit in this spot where there's shade coming in. So I go over there, I sit in the shade, and then Kenneth, he goes to the other side, like, hey, tell everyone to scoot over, and then he sits with them, right? And by the way, when I was thinking about that, I was like, okay, yeah, that's actually one way you help one another, right? You're carrying the burden off each other. When no one else really cared that the pastor was sitting in the sun, ordering, waking up early, picking up trash, Michael was like, I'll do the dishes for you. Kenneth was like, oh, Jacob, why are you sitting in the sun? I should be the one sitting there. Sit down, right? A third thing that comes to my mind is this. After we were done eating, I actually had to go back to a retreat site and then get the bus traffic. But by this time, I was actually very, 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 very tired because as I mentioned before, for the past 5 straight weeks, I had a retreat, mission, Thailand, right? And then I had another mission trip, right? And I was actually doing the calculation, including today's message. Since July until now, within the past 40 days or so, this is my 30th sermon that I'm preaching. So I was very, very exhausted, very, very tired. And I was thinking, okay, I'm just gonna drive back and get the bus driver to come back. But I was thinking, I was like, man, if you remember going to a cabin, there's a lot of traffic. So I was thinking, okay, walking is actually faster. So I was thinking about walking, but I was actually very tired. So I turned to Yejun, right? Then I was like, hey Yejun, I'm really sorry, but would you mind? Okay to just go back, walk back to a retreat site and come back with the bus driver. And thankfully, like what Yejun always does, I was like, oh yeah, I'll go, right? Not a single hint of complaining. No, really. Like every time I ask Yejun something, every time Yejun's like, oh yeah, I'll do it. Right? That's why I love Yejun. Right? Some people when I ask them, he's like, okay. But Yejun, 99.9% of the time when I ask him to do something, he's like, oh yeah, I'll do it, Jacob. So when he did that, it actually, again, took the burden off my soul. Again, let me ask you a question. How are you bearing the burdens of one another? What are you actually doing? But if you remember, in terms of this context of today's passage, right? Paul is not just talking about, bearing the burdens of other believers, just the things that I talked about. But what Paul is actually talking about is this. Once the brother has failed because he's living in sin, and after you approached it in a gentle way and you brought him back to his faith, right? You helped him up, right? Now Paul is saying, with this person, what can you do? How are you bearing the burdens of this person so that he will get back to his faith and that he will be able to walk in Christ? Again, how are you doing in terms of this? Right? How are you doing in terms of this? But as we do this, Paul reminds us of a couple of things. The first thing that we see is in verse 3. He's saying, as you carry the burden of someone else, right? One of the things that Paul wants to remind us is this, that we are to stay humble, right? Because if you think about it, one of the scariest pride out there is spiritual pride, right? Not like, oh, I'm smarter than you, I'm a better baseball player than you, but the scariest pride of all is spiritual pride. When you're thinking, I'm more holy than you, right? I go to more, I go on more mission trips. I read the Bible every day. I spend 20 minutes in prayer, right? That's the most dangerous part. And Paul is saying, make sure you don't act in that way. Why? Because once you start having spiritual pride, you're no different from the Judaizers. Why? Because if you think about it, the main problems of this Judaizer is actually spiritual pride. Why? Because they say this, I'm actually a better Christian. Why? Because I follow all this Mosaic law. Right? I not only believe in Jesus Christ, but I got circumcised. Right? That's what they're bragging about. They're boasting about the works that they're doing. So Paul is saying in verse 3, right? Make sure as you help the burden of carry the burden of another believer, right? That you do not become prideful, right? That you become humble. That you humble yourself before God. And he goes on to say, you know what, you're fully, but yet if you're prideful, you are fully known about yourself. And Paul goes on to say in verse 6, as Christians, we also have been trained and we are to now share all the good things with the spiritual teachers. So if you look at verse 6, it's kind of weird, and you may be thinking, okay, verse 6, first of all, what is he talking about? And that kind of looks like it's kind of like out of place, right? So what is verse 6 talking about? Can anyone tell me? If you get it right, I'll give you a word. What does verse 6 mean? Let the one who is taught the word share all good things with the teacher. Right? So he's saying, you as a student that's being taught the word of God, share all good things that you have with the person that is teaching you the word. So what is he talking about? What about? Okay, so one thing is like vegan to pastor, but if you actually read it, what Paul is talking about is this. He's once again reminding the church, right? It is the responsibility of the church to give to the church, right? Not only your time, but it's also actually here in this verse, he's talking about finance, right? He's saying make sure you give financially to the church and support your pastor. So if you think about it, you're thinking, okay, why is that in this passage? That's kind of weird. But this is also because, right, by you supporting the church, by you supporting the pastors, right, you're helping the pastor load, financial burden off this guy. Now going back to the first story that I told you, right, about the kid that got caught stealing 10 years ago. So when he got caught and when he came before me, when I told him, God's been complaining some things about you, and then he confessed, right, he shared all these things. One of the things I had to do was this. I was like, okay, this is what you did, and you need to repent before God. I have to repent. So, we pray, and he was like, I'm really sorry, I'm never going to do it again. And he made a promise before God. And I was like, that's not enough. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to write a letter to Beverly Center, the owner of Nike store. And I want you to actually say what you did. My name is so-and-so. For the past few weeks or months, I've been stealing at your store. And I'm actually writing this letter because I want to apologize. I am a Christian, and as a Christian, I shouldn't have. But God revealed to me what I did was really, really bad. And I really want to confess before you. Please take my apology. If you want to take me to the court, I'm okay with that. I deserve it. So he wrote this kind of letter. And again, the reason why I had him, write this letter was because I wanted him to come clean. The thing that was, that he had in his head, I wanted him to actually come and then confess before not only God, but the person that he actually stole from. Thankfully, when they received this letter, they're actually pretty shocked. They're like, wow, no one ever writes a letter after getting caught stealing, right? But they're like, okay, you're young, you made this mistake, we're not gonna charge, we're gonna drop all charges, okay. And when he heard this news, of course, the burden that he had, more of it, was actually lifted off. Right? So again, the second responsibility that we have as Christians with liberty is that we bear the burdens of one another. And again, number one is that we restore sinners. And the third thing that Paul talks about is this. The responsibility that comes with Christian liberty is that we sow spiritually. He's sowing spiritually. Let's read on from verse 7 all the way to 10. Verse 7 all the way to 10. Let's try to read it out loud in one voice. You guys ready? 1, 2, 3. Amen. The third thing again that Paul talks about regarding Christian responsibility is that we are to sow spiritually. What does it mean to sow spiritually? It means this, that we are to invest in eternal things. Right? Think about it. As college students, there's so many things that you guys can invest in. Right? And those things, it doesn't even have to be that. There's good things that you guys can invest in. Right? You as students investing in school, right? Studying, right? Preparing for grad school, right? That's good investment. But if you think about it, that's not eternal investment. As students, right? Well, not just students, but just working students, right? You could invest in your body. You guys could work out, you guys could run, you guys could do push-ups every day, sit-ups every day, right? Again, that's the good thing. But if you think about it, that's not investing in something that is eternal. Right? You guys could invest in terms of finance. You guys could start saving up right now. You guys could start looking into, I don't know, like stock market or like something, investment class. Those things are all good. But again, when you die, you're not going to be taking money with you. So what Paul is saying is this. There's something greater that we could invest in. Right? And something greater that we could invest in is what? That we invest in things that are eternal. And Paul goes on to say this, God is not a fool, right? God is very smart. He knows the system. And he says, what you sow, you will reap. And by the way, there's a lot of words that are similar to this. And one of my pet peeves, if I have one, is this. When Christians say, ooh, karma, right? What goes around will come around, right? What goes around will come back to you, right? But I really hate it when Christians use this word. Why? Because again, this idea of this word karma, it has like a Hindu term in it. But for Christians, there's other words that we can use, right? That has even a greater and even a better meaning. What is it? You reap what you sow, right? And it comes from this passage. And if you plant things if you plant things of the flesh, at the end, what you reap, right, is gonna be destroyed. There's nothing that you're gonna be reaping. But Paul is saying this, as a Christian, make sure you invest something that is spiritual, right? How can you invest in something that is spiritual? Think about it. I'll give you some time to think about it. What can you do to actually invest in something that is eternal? Can anyone tell me? What are some eternal things that you could invest in right now? Don't be shy. What are they? Anyone? Priscilla, what are they? Tell me one. Good. Right? One of the most important things that we can do is invest in soul. Why? Because even if we die, our souls are eternal. Either eternally condemned in hell or eternally in heaven. Right? So one of the things that we can do is invest in people. Right? Not only do you know Jesus Christ, but not only that, even if you're a Christian, even if someone is Christian, if you see a younger believer, right? Disciple him, mentor him, have them walk in the correct way. Why? Because you're investing in a kingdom thing. Right? And even to give to the church, give to missionaries, those kind of things, if you think about it, is investing in things that are eternal. And Paul goes on to say this at the very end, right? He said, most importantly, as Christian, one of the things that we need to do is this. There's so many things here in this world, right? And a lot of times what's sad is this. When people think about the church, they think, oh, you know what, they're kind of greedy, they're selfish. They're so judgmental. Right? And a lot of people, what's kind of sad is they call themselves a Christian, but the actions that they're doing has nothing to do with Christ. Right? Look at the media now. Look at the people protesting, right? And saying, they're better than someone else because of their skin color, right? People look at them, they're like, oh my gosh, they call themselves a Christian. Right? If you actually look at it, of course, it's not. Why? Because here, that's why Paul is saying, especially to those who are of the household of faith. Paul is saying, make sure you take care of yourself, that you love one another. Especially for those that are Christian, that you love one another. Going back to the student that stole from the night. Again, So he sinned. So what do? I approached him and I was telling him, hey, you know what you did is wrong, right? And then I had him repent. So I restored the sinner. And then afterwards, I helped him bear his burden. Right? I helped him write the letter. And then I helped him confess before God, walk spiritually. Not only that, he wrote the letter. And then they told him, okay, don't worry about it. What you did, you know what? You're young. We're going to let it go. So I helped him take the burden off. And finally, how did I sow spiritually? After this happened, I started investing in him. Right? I spent hours and hours with him, talking with him, mentoring him, discipling him. I took him to Bible retreats, countless mission trips with him. And now, he's actually serving. Right? And if you see this person, you're going to be like, wow, this guy's actually... Yes, at times when he plays basketball, he can be kind of scary. But most of the time, when you think about it, you're like, wow, he's actually a good man. He's a good, disciple of Jesus Christ. And the person that I'm talking about is John Hong, right? And don't worry, I got permission from John Hong to share this story, so he gave me the okay. But yeah, 10 years ago, John was stealing, he's doing all this, but now look at it, right? He's going on mission trip, right? He was in a 17 before he graduated, right? So we need to invest in people, right? We need to sow spiritually. Again, what Paul tells us is this. As Christians, we have responsibility. As Christians, we are given freedom, but within this freedom, right, we have the responsibility to do a couple things. And the first thing that we do is we are to restore sinners. Second thing is that we are to bear the burdens of that person. And then third thing, we are to sow spiritually. But before I end, let me ask you a couple questions. How are you applying this thing into your life at this very moment? What are you doing? Right? Question number 1. Is there a brother or a sister that you need to help restore back into faith? Is there anyone that comes into your mind? If you go, no one, then I'll tell you this. You're very selfish, very greedy. Because the only person that you're thinking about is right now yourself. If you really cannot think of a person that you could actually go out and have this person come back to faith, honestly speaking, you haven't been thinking about anyone else but yourself. Okay? So I pray that as you spend time, especially in our accountability group, as we think about this question, people, names will start popping up. But here's one thing I do not want you to do during accountability. Like, oh yeah, Pastor, I have this friend, his name is Jimmy, you know what? Man, he's been like selling drugs, I'm gonna go in and share the gospel. Okay? If that's you, then you're just gossiping, right? So don't approach it in that way. But again, number 1, is there a brother or a sister that you need to restore back to faith? If there is, I want you to spend time in prayer, and I want you to gently go to him or to her, and I want you to share with him what he's doing, and show him, right? Through the Bible, through the Word of God, so that he can come back into faith. Second thing, once you restore this person back into faith, how can you help bear the burden for him? How can you help this person walk away from sin? Not only that, but now to walk towards Christ. Now that he realized that he's living in sin and he confesses for God, how can you actually walk with him, right? Carry the load with him and help him so that he will come to faith again. And 3, finally, how can you sow spiritually? How can you invest in this person? What are you willing to do in terms of investing? When you invest in someone or something, you need to give something that is of yourself. Think about it. When you invest in study, you need time, you need effort, you gotta study, right? When you want to invest in working out, you put in the hours, you go to the gym, you sweat, you run, you control your food, and you all do that, right? And if you're thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna invest in someone spiritually, you're thinking, I'm not gonna give anything away. There's no way you can invest in someone without giving a little bit of yourself. Whether that be finance, time, prayer, whatever it may be, right? There's a cost to it. And finally, another question I want to ask you is how can you also invest in a college ministry, right? How can you invest in terms of the people that are in your accountability, right? With that question, I'll end the prayer. Father God, we want to thank you, Lord, for who you are. And God, we want to thank you, Father God, for your faithfulness. God, we indeed, Father God, confess, proclaim, God, that you are God. You are good. And God, we also want to thank you, Father God, for the responsibility that you have given us as Christians. God, would you help us, Father God, to restore people back into faith. And God, would you help us, Father God, to bear one another's burden. And God, instead of just investing in things out of the world, God, would you help us, Father God, to sow spiritually. God, would you help us, Father God, to invest in things that are eternal. God, we thank you, Lord, for who you are. We love you. That's in the prayer.